Have you ever wondered where we all come from? I mean, really come from? Today, we take for granted that life on Earth began in the water. But who was the first person to ever have that incredible idea? It wasn't Darwin, and it wasn't a modern biologist. It was a Greek philosopher who lived over 2,500 years ago. His name was Anaximander of Miletus, and his theory of our aquatic origins is one of the most revolutionary ideas in the history of human thought. Let us dive into the story of how this ancient thinker came up with a concept that was centuries ahead of its time. Anaximander lived in the 6th century BCE, a time when most people explained the world through myths and gods. Thunder was Zeus's anger, the seasons were a deal between goddesses, and humanity was crafted from clay by a divine being. But Anaximander and his fellow Milesian philosophers were different. They were among the first to look for natural explanations for natural phenomena. They believed the world could be understood through reason, observation, and logic, without needing to invoke the supernatural. This was a radical shift, the very birth of what we now call science and philosophy. So, what exactly did Anaximander propose? He suggested that the first living creatures arose from the moist element, from water, as it was evaporated by the sun. Think about that for a second. He's describing a process where non-living matter, warmed by a natural energy source, gives rise to life. This is an early form of abiogenesis, the idea that life originates from inorganic matter. He didn't just stop there. He imagined these first creatures were enclosed in thorny, bark-like shells. As they grew, they eventually moved onto dry land, broke out of their shells, and adapted to a new way of life. Now, let's get to the most fascinating part of his theory, the origin of humans. Anaximander observed something very practical. A human baby is completely helpless. It needs care for years to survive. So, he reasoned, if the very first humans had been born as infants, they would have perished immediately. How could our species have ever gotten started? His solution was ingenious. He proposed that humans were originally born and nurtured inside another type of animal, specifically, a fish-like creature. They stayed inside these aquatic parents until they were mature enough to fend for themselves. Once they were grown, they emerged from their fishy wombs, ready to take on the world. It sounds strange, doesn't it? Like a sci-fi movie plot. But if you look past the literal image, the core idea is breathtaking. Anaximander is suggesting that humans were not always as we are now. We originated from a different kind of animal, an aquatic one, and transformed over time. This is a clear rudimentary concept of evolution. He understood that species were not fixed and eternal but could change and adapt from one form to another. He even identified a specific problem, the vulnerability of human infants, and used it as evidence for his theory of a transitional stage. What evidence did Anaximander have? He couldn't run DNA tests or dig for fossils. His evidence was based on observation and logical deduction. He saw the remains of sea creatures and shells far inland, high up in the mountains. How did they get there? His conclusion was that these areas must have once been underwater. This supported his cosmological view that the Earth was originally covered in moisture, which gradually dried up, concentrating life in the remaining seas. He also likely observed the process of spontaneous generation, where maggots seemed to appear on rotting meat or tiny creatures in stagnant water. To him, this suggested that life could emerge from a moist primordial substance. His methodology was just as important as his conclusions. Instead of saying the gods did it, Anaximander committed to what we call methodological naturalism. This is the principle that we should always seek natural causes for natural events. It's the absolute foundation of modern science. By rejecting supernatural explanations, he opened the door for genuine inquiry. He wasn't just telling a story. He was building a logical argument based on empirical observations, like fossils on mountains, and rational principles, like the problem of infant survival. Let's place this in the context of his broader cosmology. Anaximander had a truly unique vision of the universe. He didn't think the Earth rested on anything. He pictured it as a cylinder, a drum, suspended freely in the center of the cosmos, held in place because it was equidistant from everything else. Surrounding the Earth were giant wheels of fire, hidden by mist. The sun, moon, and stars were simply holes in this mist, allowing us to see the fire beyond. Eclipses and the phases of the moon were caused by these holes temporarily closing up. While the details are wrong, the approach is mind-blowing. He was creating a mechanical model of the universe, one that operated on its own, without divine intervention. His theory of life, emerging from the primeval wetness, was a natural extension of this cosmic system. It was all one big, interconnected, self-regulating machine. The philosophical consequences of Anaximander's ideas were immense. First, he decentered humanity. In most creation myths, humans are the pinnacle of creation, the special project of the gods. Anaximander's theory places us squarely within the animal kingdom. We are not special beings from on high. We are relatives of fish, products of the same natural processes that created all other creatures. This is a profound shift in perspective, one that science would later confirm in spectacular detail. It fostered a sense of humility and a connection to the rest of the natural world. Second, his work championed the power of human reason. He demonstrated that we don't have to passively accept the stories we're told. We can observe the world, think critically, and formulate our own explanations. We can challenge established ideas and build better ones. Anaximander wasn't just a theorist, he was a pioneer of the critical tradition. In fact, his own student, Anaximenes, disagreed with him and proposed his own theory that air, not water, was the fundamental substance. This was not seen as betrayal, but as progress, the very essence of scientific and philosophical advancement. So, when we think about the history of evolution, we often jump straight to Charles Darwin. But Darwin stood on the shoulders of giants, and one of the earliest and most towering of those giants was Anaximander. Over 2 millennia before, on The Origin of Species, this Greek thinker laid the conceptual groundwork. He gave us the idea of a natural origin of life from non-living matter, the concept of species transformation and adaptation, and the crucial understanding that humans are a part of, not apart from, the animal world. He did all of this armed with nothing more than his eyes, his mind, and an unwavering commitment to finding rational explanations. Anaximander's legacy isn't just about being right about our aquatic origins. It's about the revolutionary courage to ask how and why, and to believe that we, as humans, have the power to find the answers. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey back to the dawn of science, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into the history of great ideas. See you next time.